on a snack street. Nameless Nya led Yuanwan shopping here and there, occasionally buying some snacks and stuffing them in his mouth or holding them in his hands. Say, brother, have you eaten enough yet? We should prioritize investigating Dad and Mom's whereabouts first, Yuanwan said to Nameless Nya. Nameless Nya glanced at her. Nonsense. Of course I know that, but one can't function properly on an empty stomach. I'd starve terribly if I skipped a meal, so I have to eat my fill before I go and investigate. Then hurry and finish eating, Yuanwan sighed. Wait here. I'll go to the corner to line up. That place's meat bun is seriously awesome. I'll bring one back for you. After saying that, Nameless Nya dashed off. Watching Nameless Nya's departing figure, Yuanwan's lips twitched. It was Dad and Mom's wisest decision to refrain from passing the position of family head to him. Yuanwan was about to call Si Yihan and explain the current situation to him when a big group of trained experts appeared and quickly surrounded her. The leader was none other than Nye Linglong. Sister, where are you going? You made me search quite hard for you, Nye Linglong expressionlessly stated. Oh, did you need to see me for something urgent, sister? Yuanwan remained calm and collected. There's nothing urgent, but as you know, sister, I just became the family head of the Nye family and need to establish some achievements. And President Fearless once stole a large quantity of confidential information and rare treasures many years ago, so the higher-ups of the Nye family have decided to punish President Fearless. Have you seen President Fearless perchance, sister? Nye Linglong stared at Yuanwan, an icy smile spreading across her mouth. What a coincidence! Yuanwan met Nye Linglong's eyes. Your sister, and the President Fearless you're searching for. Nye Linglong nodded. Look at my memory, sister. I forgot about your identity as President Fearless. However, one thing at a time. Sisterhood is sisterhood and business is business. Business your mother. A harsh shout was heard from the back of the group, and before anyone could see how Nameless Nya was moving, he kicked and sent 7 or 8 people flying away. Nameless Nya walked to Yuanwan with a meat bun in his mouth. Yuanwan, look at the situation. Can't you eat later? Nameless Nya, this matter originally had nothing to do with you. But since you're acting disrespectfully toward the head of the Nye family and sheltering President Fearless, you're now accountable for the same crime. Submit yourself to arrest immediately, Nye Linglong coldly said. Nye Linglong. Nameless Nya's bone-chilling gaze landed on Nye Linglong. Have you gotten something wrong? Do you know who I am? I'm rather interested. Tell me, who are you? Nye Linglong snorted. I am Nameless Nya. As Nameless Nya said that, he lightly swung his fist, and in a flash, the expert standing next to Nye Linglong flew backward like snipped kites. Yuanwan's heart trembled as she looked at Nameless Nya. The current Nameless Nya gave her a completely different feeling. Was this how her eldest brother acted when he was serious? This Nameless Nya in front of her and the Nameless Nya in her memories were like 2 completely different people. Take him down, Nye Linglong ordered. Countless experts instantly surrounded Nameless Nya. Nameless Nya stood unmoving in his spot, and Yuanwan couldn't see how he attacked. Nevertheless, a few breaths later, a dozen or so people had fallen. Nye Linglong's expression was abnormally dark. Thankfully, Nameless Nya was an idiot, or else it would truly be a nightmare. She wanted to see how much longer Nameless Nya could hop around. In a place like the Independent State, martial strength was everything. A person had to capture the ringleader first in order to capture all his followers. So after taking care of the small fry, Nameless Nya strode straight toward Nye Linglong. Your life, it's mine, Nameless Nya announced coldly. I don't think so, Nye Linglong aloofly replied. Try me. Nye Linglong's lips turned up into an icy smile, her eyes shining coldly as she met Nameless Nya's eyes. Sure, you can come and try. Nameless Nya remained expressionless. His figure disappeared from his spot like a flash of lightning, and he reappeared next to Nye Linglong in a few seconds. He struck with his palm so fast that he stole air from the observers. Even Nye Linglong couldn't help the surprise on her face. However, seconds before Nameless Nia's palm made contact with Nye Linglong, his expression shifted and he staggered a step as he clutched his stomach. Yi Wanwan's expression turned peculiar. "Brother?" Yi Wanwan questioned softly. Nameless Nia didn't answer. "Brother, what's wrong?" Detecting something amiss, Yi Wanwan hastily rushed forward, an ominous feeling rising in her heart. "Stop! Don't come over here." Nameless Nia glanced at Yi Wanwan. Before Yi Wanwan could respond, a fountain of blood suddenly sprayed from Nameless Nia's mouth a second later. When the blood splattered onto the ground, it was black. Yi Wanwan stared at the puddle of blood, her expression shifting. "You were poisoned?" Nameless Nia wiped the blood from his mouth, his brows locked together. "Poisoned? When?" Yi Wanwan was stunned. "You don't even know when you got poisoned?" Nameless Nia gritted his teeth and ran his mind over past events. "It couldn't be that ice pear juice, right?" "It shouldn't be." "No way. What ice pear juice?" Yi Wanwan asked anxiously. "On my way back, a miss offered me some ice pear juice for free, so I drank a cup." Yi Wanwan's lips twitched. She couldn't say anything after half a day as she stared at Nameless Nia. What else could she say? He clearly knew about Nye Linglong's wild ambitions, but didn't know to take precautions. Just what was inside his head. However, Yi Wanwan had no presence of mind to blame Nameless Nia since her heart was brimming with worry. It didn't require any thought to know this was Nye Linglong's doing. No wonder Nye Linglong dared to come here and eliminate her and Nameless Nia. Watching Nameless Nia's quickly paling face, Yi Wanwan felt her heart burning with anxiety. "Just what kind of poison is it?" Nye Linglong airily said. "It's withered butterfly, a poison that will kill its victim within half an hour without fail." Half an hour. The color drained from Yi Wanwan's face. Within moments of Nye Linglong speaking, more black blood dribbled from the corner of Nameless Nia's mouth, and his figure toppled. "Brother!" Yi Wanwan caught Nameless Nia at once. "It's fine. My body is in good shape, so this little poison is nothing. Leave first. I'll handle it." Nameless Nia said as he looked at Yi Wanwan with meaning. "Bullshit." Yi Wanwan held Nameless Nia by his arm. No matter how good his body was, he couldn't fight this kind of lethal poison. "Forget about me. I am fine." Nameless Nia frowned deeply at Yi Wanwan. "Believe in me. Leave first." "If we leave, we'll leave together. If we stay, we'll stay together," Yi Wanwan said without the slightest hesitation, her eyes focused on Nameless Nia. Nameless Nia and her were real siblings, the closest people in this world. So how could she abandon Nameless Nia and leave by herself? Yi Wanwan couldn't do it, even if it meant she would die. What a good show of deep sibling affections. "I was nearly moved by you too," Nye Linglong said with a snort. Yi Wanwan wasn't in the mood to pay attention to Nye Linglong. She helped Nameless Nia stand up and hastily said, "Brother, let's go. I'll take you to the hospital. You'll definitely be fine." "Go." Nye Linglong stared at the duo. "Where are you planning to go now? How about I send you underground so that your deep sibling affections won't be disrupted and you too will have company on your journey to Yellow Springs?" By this time, the pedestrians on the snack street had hidden or ran already, and their surroundings were rather deserted and empty. Some time ago, Yi Wanwan had sent an SOS message to First Elder without notice, telling them to hurry there. However, the Fearless Alliance wasn't too close to this place, so even if First Elder and the others rushed over, they would need half an hour at least, and Nameless Nia's current condition absolutely didn't allow for such a long wait. This was the first time that Yi Wanwan could sense how important half an hour was and how long time felt. Nameless Nia probably couldn't last half an hour. He had to be sent to the hospital in the shortest amount of time possible. Yi Wanwan looked at Nameless Nia. Nameless Nia's face was deathly pale, sweat continued to soak his forehead, and his breathing turned more and more rapid. "Brother, use this time and leave first. Listen to me just once. Go to the hospital. Even if disaster strikes, I'll deal with it." Yi Wanwan shielded Nameless Nia's body. "I'm sick of watching this display of deep sibling affections. Nie Linglong apathetically waved her hand. Following Nie Linglong's order, several experts swiftly attacked Yuanwan. Each move was incredibly vicious and targeted her fatal points. They were the purest killing moves with no other intention than taking her life. Yuanwan gritted her teeth. No matter what, she had to protect nameless Nie today, even if it was at the cost of her life. However, those people were seriously too fast, so fast that Yuanwan could barely see them clearly. These people were all top-notch experts from the Nie family's assassination squad. Since Nie Linglong had become the head of the Nie family, she naturally had the right to mobilize them. The Nie family's assassination squad only obeyed orders from the family head and ignored everyone else. At this moment, a pair of warm hands were gently set on Yi Wanwan's left shoulder. Nameless Nie took a step forward. "Who dares to harm a hair on my sister?" Nameless Nie's bone-chilling words were accompanied by the terrifying aura of a wild beast. One of the expert assassins was caught off guard and was fiercely slammed in the face by Nameless Nie's elbow. The next second, the expert assassin flew back like a snipped kite. Kaboom! A giant noise resounded, and that person sank into the stone wall he hit. His body was stuck inside the wall as he stopped breathing on the spot. When the remaining expert assassins saw how Nameless Nie could still explode with such powerful fighting power despite being lethally poisoned, they looked at each other in bewilderment and shock. "Don't be afraid. Nameless Nie is a spent bullet," Nie Linglong shouted coldly. Following Nie Linglong's words, iciness surfaced in the eyes of the remaining expert assassins again. They didn't switch targets and continued to attack Yuanwan, who was behind Nameless Nie. "Come here." One of the expert assassins was about to approach Yuanwan when his hair was snatched by Nameless Nie. Nameless Nie dragged him back and promptly swept that assassin several meters back like a dragon flicking his tail. Nameless Nie's attacks were seriously too heavy, unbelievably heavy. If you were hit by Nameless Nie, you would die without a doubt. In the blink of an eye, two expert assassins lost their lives. However, as Nie Linglong said, Nameless Nie was a spent bullet. His breathing turned increasingly rapid, and his figure was also swaying, as though he was pushing himself on with an unimaginable amount of willpower. However, the saying, "a starving camel is still bigger than a horse," was eternally, invariably true. Don't waste time. Attack together. Nameless Nie panted heavily, but his formidable aura didn't decrease in the slightest. "Brother," Yuanwan gritted her teeth as she watched Nameless Nie. "Matriarch, Nameless hasn't done anything wrong. After all, isn't this a little?" After several elders from the Nie family rushed over, one of the middle-level higher-ups inquired worriedly. "That's true. However, I've given him a chance." "He didn't listen," Nie Linglong coldly said. "Sheltering President Fearless and killing several experts from our Nie family's assassination squad is a heinous crime. Even if Dad and Mom returned, they wouldn't forgive these two." The middle-level higher-up secretly shook his head when he heard this, helplessness filling his heart. In truth, Madame Nie and Patriarch Nie already discovered something was wrong with Nie Linglong long ago and started secretly investigating her. However, Nie Linglong's power in the Nie family was stable. If they directly acted against Nie Linglong without any evidence, it would evoke turmoil in the Nie family. Now, though, Patriarch Nie and Madame Nie were missing, so the Nie family had become Nie Linglong's domain completely. Nie Linglong colluded with the powerful elders and higher-ups from the Nie family, so no one dared to disobey Nie Linglong. "Why are you standing around? Kill Nameless Nie first, then slay President Fearless," Nie Linglong commanded coldly. Dozens of people immediately attacked Nameless Nie like an avalanche. "Ha!" Nameless Nie broke in a loud laughter. "Great, great, great! Come at me." Even though Nameless Nie was lethally poisoned and besieged by dozens of experts and several elders from the Nie family, he didn't have a trace of fear and welcomed the battle with a grin. When Nameless Nie and the dozens of experts fought, they were like two falling meteors that deviated from their original path and violently clashed together. Within seconds, several cuts from weapons appeared on Nameless Nye's body, the blood soaking his upper body, dyeing all of his clothes scarlet. "Sister, hurry and leave." Nameless Nye suddenly turned around and angrily shouted at Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan tightly clenched her fists. "I can't leave. How could I leave?" Nameless Nye panted heavily and abruptly pushed Yi Wanwan toward the exit. "Worryless, leave? Quick, listen, brother." "Brother, I'm fine. Leave." Nameless Nye's voice turned icy. Panic suddenly rushed into Yi Wanwan's eyes when she saw Nameless Nye's gaze. What does he want to do? A second later, Nameless Nye suddenly started attacking those experts crazily. Yi Wanwan knew he was fighting for a handful of minutes so that she could escape. Nye Linglong, icily, stood on the side with her arms crossed in front of her chest. With a poison like withered butterfly, the more you move, the faster it spreads. Heh. Brother. As Yi Wanwan tussled with those guards with everything she had, she kept trying to break through the human barrier and take Nameless Nye away. However, Nye Linglong came prepared. All the experts here today were on par with the chauffeur assassin from the other day. Although Yi Wanwan underwent intense training and managed to match her sober strength with her drunk strength, her strength was still too inferior. "I'm telling you to leave. Didn't you hear?" Nameless Nye angrily shouted, nearly using all of the energy in him while he shattered the top of an assassin's skull with his palm. At this moment, an assassin sneakily attacked Nameless Nye from behind. Nameless Nye's energy was nearly exhausted, so he couldn't dodge in time and was struck on the back and sent flying back, heavily crashing into the wall. "Brother." Yi Wanwan instantly sent an expert back with a karate chop and rushed forward, helping Nameless Nye sit up. However, Nameless Nye had closed his eyes and lay there unmoving. "I told him that after ingesting this poison, the more intensely he moved, the faster the poison would spread. He's just dim-witted and wouldn't listen, so he brought it on himself," Nye Linglong said with a snort nearby. "Shut your D-damn mouth." Yi Wanwan fiercely glared at Nye Linglong. This glare was bone-chillingly icy, and even Nye Linglong involuntarily felt chilly from head to toe in that instant. That gaze gave her déjà vu. Nameless Nye fainted. "Forget about him. Kill President Fearless," Nye Linglong ordered. Following Nye Linglong's order, several Nye family elders and expert assassins attacked Yi Wanwan immediately. "Brother." Yi Wanwan was sorrowful as she looked at the unconscious Nameless Nye. Behind her, a Nye family elder had reached her and swung a fist toward the back of Yi Wanwan's neck. This elder's fist was too fast. The strength of a Nye family elder wasn't something the current Yi Wanwan could contend with. At that moment, something unbelievable happened. Bang! A loud noise rang out, and the elder howled in pain as he was sent flying back by a punch from the suddenly standing Nameless Nye. "Brother." Yi Wanwan was joyous. However, a second later, Yi Wanwan froze in her spot, her hands clutching her mouth and her eyes wet with tears. Nameless Nye's eyes were still tightly shut and unopened. He was still unconscious. A Nye family higher-up looked stunned. He clearly fainted already, but he can still attack. What kind of willpower is this? It's mostly like his final instincts and determination. Even though he's fainted completely, he can still use his last bit of willpower to protect his sister. A middle-level higher-up gnawed on his teeth, deep veneration toward Nameless Nye rising in his heart. Nameless Nye instinctively protected Yi Wanwan behind himself. He still had enough consciousness to differentiate who was his younger sister and who were the people trying to harm his sister. "Brother." Veins bulged from Yi Wanwan's forehead and her nails dug into her palms, blood dripping onto the ground. "Why am I so useless? I don't have unparalleled intelligence or unbeatable martial strength. What use am I? I can't even protect my own elder brother. I'm a piece of trash." Torrential hatred rushed inside Yi Wanwan's heart. She hated her incompetence. She hated her powerlessness. "You're dead." At that moment, Nye Linglong dashed toward her grasping a dagger, her figure extremely fast and incredibly agile. Swish! The coldly glinting dagger was thrust toward the unconscious, nameless Nya. PKKHHD. It was the sound of a blade piercing flesh. Drip! Drip! Blood trailed down Yi Wanwan's hand and slowly dripped onto the ground. In the blink of an eye, before Nye Linglong swung her dagger and pierced nameless Nye's chest, Yi Wanwan had acted. She stood guard next to nameless Nye and used her own hand to take Nye Linglong's dagger. The incredibly sharp blade completely penetrated her hand. Yi Wanwan had her head lowered, silent. I'm really curious. How much longer will you play out your act of deep sibling affections? Nye Linglong asked while smiling with intrigue, looking at Yi Wanwan in amusement. Yi Wanwan slowly raised her head, the breeze sending her hair fluttering up. I want you to die, Yi Wanwan said expressionlessly. You want me to die? Nye Linglong asked with a smile. Can you do it? All right, I've changed my mind. I will use this dagger to pierce through your brother's chest in front of you. I want you to personally witness your incapability. Your arrival in this world was the biggest mistake. How tragic. Kneel down and beg me. However, before Nye Linglong could finish speaking, her expression abruptly changed. Yi Wanwan swung her fist. This punch was so fast, Nye Linglong couldn't react, as though it had broken human limits and passed some terrifying limit. In front of everyone, Nye Linglong was punched by Yi Wanwan and flew backward like a sheet of paper in a storm. Swish! Before Nye Linglong could land, Yi Wanwan rapidly caught up to Nye Linglong extremely quickly, and she snatched the woman by her hair, dragging her downward mercilessly. Kaboom! Nye Linglong was fiercely slammed onto the ground, sending dust flying in the air. Bam! Another punch landed on Nye Linglong's face before Nye Linglong could react. I want you to die. This was violently fuming rage. This was bone-deep, resentful hatred. Nye Linglong's heart couldn't help but tremble when she saw Yi Wanwan's familiar, frightening gaze. It was the gaze from all those years ago. The gaze worryless Nya had when she trained her. The gaze that terrified her but also made her harbor resentment. You're dead. Nye Linglong screamed with rage, and her hand slapped the ground as she picked up the dagger and stood up, thrusting the dagger toward the spot between Yi Wanwan's brows. Ding! What made Nye Linglong incredulous was that Yi Wanwan managed to catch her dagger merely using 2 fingers. Nye Linglong, you truly deserve to die. The current Yi Wanwan seemed to have been pervaded by indignant fury and had transformed into a demon that crawled out of the depths of hell. After Yi Wanwan said that, her fingertips exerted an unimaginable strength. The dagger caught by her snapped with a crisp sound. Yi Wanwan kept her fingers on the broken-off end of the dagger, and she swung her right arm, ruthlessly slashing across Nye Linglong's neck as though she wanted to cut it in half. However, Nye Linglong reacted extremely fast and retreated back at once. Although Nye Linglong managed to dodge Yi Wanwan's fatal blow, a long, bloody laceration still drew across her face, which was shocking to the eye. Attack! A Nye family elder shouted immediately. The next second, dozen or so people attacked Yi Wanwan. You all deserve to die. Faced with the dozen or so attackers, Yi Wanwan didn't retreat and attacked instead, using the broken dagger between her fingers as her weapon. Within moments, her attackers were left dead or injured, and no one dared to approach Yi Wanwan anymore. How was that possible? An elder was astonished as he stared at Yi Wanwan. She recovered, her peak martial strength. But wait, even during worryless Nye's peak period, she wasn't this frightening. So did she surpass her previous self, or perhaps the old her was holding back? Let's attack together. Kill her. Nye Linglong commanded coldly. Before the other Nye family members could respond, a bone-chilling voice was heard, a voice that sounded like it came from the depths of the night and sent shivers down people's backs. Do you want to attack together? Hundreds of people slowly walked around the corner, and the leading man seemed to be one with the night, a terrifyingly menacing aura tinged with never-seen-before murderousness infiltrating the air around him. Next to him was First Elder from the Fearless Alliance leading several elders, a dozen or so hall masters, Big Dipper, Seven Star, and other members. When Yi Wanwan saw the man, her bloodthirsty and merciless eyes finally eased a little. Lord Azura. The Nye family elders were shocked by Lord Azura's appearance. How was he so fast? Yes, they had miscalculated. Their original plan involved nameless Nye getting poisoned and them taking care of him in the shortest amount of time possible. Since worryless Nye wasn't worth a mention, they would kill both of them, and the Nye family would have nothing to fear when Lord Azura arrived on their doorstep. However, who would have expected nameless Nye to be a monster? He was lethally poisoned but could still display such explosively powerful fighting strength. Even after he fainted, he could still use his incomprehensible willpower to protect his sister. After they took care of nameless Nye with much difficulty, worryless Nye regained her peak strength and managed to drag things out until Lord Azura arrived. The man walked toward Yi Wanwan and took off his jacket, draping it over Yi Wanwan. His icy eyes turned to Yi Wanwan's injured hand. He gently picked up Yi Wanwan's hand. Does it hurt? Almost automatically, Yi Wanwan shook her head. Hurry, take my brother to the hospital. Yi Wanwan, who woke up at the start, shouted in a rush. They're taking him there, Si Yihin replied. Yi Wanwan turned around and saw that nameless Nye was taken away already. Si Yihin also turned around and examined Nye Linglong and the other members of the Nye family. Kill them all, he ordered coldly. Following his placid words, the members of Azura surrounded them all like a web. Regardless of who you were, you couldn't escape. Wait, Yi Wanwan looked at the man. I caused this years ago. Let me handle this now, all right? The hatred in her heart couldn't be pacified. All that dominated her mind was how nameless Nye exhausted everything he had to fight for her chance of survival. She was his sister, so she had to be the one to avenge him. If it wasn't for her bringing Nye Linglong back to the Nye family, how would they have warmed a snake in their bosom? She raised this vicious snake herself. Hence, even if they were to reach a conclusion, she should do it personally. Cause and effect. Cause and effect. She planted the cause, so she had to knot it as well. Si Yihin looked at Yi Wanwan and gently combed her long hair. Okay. He nodded in the end and looked at the Azura members. A second later, the Azura members moved back slightly, yielding a path. Yi Wanwan slowly traversed through the emptied path, her eyes intently looking at Nye Linglong. Her earlier hatred had turned into abnormal apathy. You? Nye Linglong asked coldly as she wiped away the blood from the wound caused by Yi Wanwan's dagger. Swish! As Nye Linglong said that, she saw Yi Wanwan's right arm rise, and the broken dagger in Yi Wanwan's fingers flew out fast as lightning. A second later, Nye Linglong's right cheek was slashed by the arrow-like dagger, blood gushing out again. Nye Linglong, I once adopted you into the Nye family because I found you pitiful. However, you weren't grateful at all and harbored the ambition of wild wolves, delusionally wanting to outstrip me, Yi Wanwan calmly stated as she looked at Nye Linglong. Adopted? Nye Linglong suddenly sneered. Who do you think you are? What have you done for the Nye family? All these years, those two old geezers worried about you endlessly, but how do you deserve it? You're nothing but a piece of trash, and I am fated to stand at the peak. You all will be stomped beneath my feet. Is that so? Yi Wanwan's eyes shone coldly, and her figure disappeared from her spot as she spoke and appearing in front of Nye Linglong. I want you dead, Nye Linglong harshly shouted, also swiftly darting toward Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan remained in her spot and aloofly glanced at Nye Linglong. I am worryless Nye, and you will always be the Nye Linglong who I charitably pitted, adopted into the Nye family, and bestowed a name upon. From this moment onward, I revoke the name Nye Linglong. You aren't worthy of being called Nye Linglong. After saying that, Yi Wanwan attacked with her elbow and ruthlessly struck the approaching Nye Linglong in the abdomen. Bam! A loud noise sounded as Nye Linglong was knocked to the ground. Nameless Nye's move. Nye Linglong stood up again and wiped the blood from her mouth. Using the move my brother once taught me to end your life is your honor. Yuan said expressionlessly. Yuan sent a kick toward Nielinglong's abdomen as she spoke. You're too slow. Nielinglong sneered and slightly tilted her body. However, Yuan's kick abruptly changed in the middle of the path and ferociously slammed into Nielinglong's chin using an extremely tricky angle. Another loud noise sounded as Nielinglong was knocked to the ground again. Still slow, Yuan asked as she looked at Nielinglong. Back then, you taught me everything. Impossible. I've already surpassed the teacher long ago. There's no way in my match. Nielinglong yelled. Yuan's lips turned up. When a tiger teaches a dog how to hunt, a dog is always a dog no matter how well it learns, but a tiger is always a tiger. You held back then? Nielinglong fumed with rage between gritted teeth. Worryless, Nye didn't teach her everything. Yuan moved the second Nielinglong finished speaking. Yuan smacked her palm toward Nielinglong, and Nielinglong immediately went on the defense, using her arms to block her body. However, Yuan accelerated and instantly looped behind Nielinglong, snatching her by her hair. Finally, one more thing to teach you. Remember to pull your hair back when you're fighting. After saying that, Yuan pushed her arms forward and Nielinglong lost her balance, crashing onto the ground. How much evil covers these hands of yours? Yuan's eyes shone coldly as she stepped onto Nielinglong's arms. The sound of bones cracking was heard, and Nielinglong was drenched in sweat, but she didn't make a single sound. Worryless Nye. Ha! You're the true demon from head to tail. The blood on my hands is all thanks to you. It was you who taught me how to kill. What right do you have to ride above me? In terms of strategy and intelligence, how could you compare to me at all? You should be the adopted one. Sweat soaked Nielinglong's forehead, but a sneer remained on her face. I taught you because I wanted you to have the ability to protect yourself in the future, not to allow you to harm the Nye family and commit crimes. Yuan replied expressionlessly. Back then, Yuan taught Nielinglong exactly as Grandpa taught her. Her original intention was love, but how a person comprehended it relied solely on them. Worryless Nye. Everyone from the Nye family deserves to die. How many good days do you have left? Nielinglong fiercely glared at Yuan. All right, I nearly forgot until you mentioned it. You can't die yet. Yuan picked Nielinglong up and tossed her to the nearby Lin, Quebec. Say, why did you throw her to me? I'm not interested in her. Lin K hastily protested as he looked at Nielinglong by his feet. Take her back and rigorously interrogate her. You must discover everything she knows, regardless of the method you have to use, Yuan said. Jiang Yin, that's your specialty. I'll leave it to you. Lin K turned to Jiang Yin next to him. Understood. Jiang Yin nodded and picked up Nielinglong, about to leave by himself. Take more people back with you, Yuan instructed with a frown. This woman is already in this state. Do you think she could still threaten me? Jiang Yin might have been indignant inside, but he was still courteous on the surface. What if someone abducted her? Yuan asked. Jiang Yin had no choice but to take half of the Azura group back with him. Yuan turned to the higher-ups and elders from the Nye family, who were present, and coldly asked, Am I qualified to become the head of the Nye family now? The Nye family higher-ups looked at each other. Yes. Worryless. Actually, we were also deceived by Nielinglong earlier. Who would have expected her to have the ambitions of a wolf? Thank goodness you exposed her true face in time, or else the consequences would have been inconceivable. A higher-up hastily said, That's right. We were also deceived. Yuan's lips curled up mockingly. Unfortunately, she couldn't displace these elders and higher-ups right now. She had to coordinate with second great-uncle and completely disintegrate their power in the Nye family first before she could punish them. Otherwise, if she harmed them now, the Nye family would definitely fracture and collapse. That wasn't something Yuan wanted to see. I know you were also deceived, but after all, you've committed a wrong, so you should be punished, Yuan said. Yes. Please punish us, matriarch. We'll comply with everything you say. All the higher-ups nodded frantically. However, Yuanwan wasn't in the mood to waste her words with these people right now. She'd definitely settle this account with them later, and what awaited them was nothing but a frightening fate. Agio, which hospital is my brother in? Let's go there. Quick! Yuanwan turned to look at Si Yin nodded and ordered Lin K. Escort all the elders from the Nie family back to the Nie residence first. Understood, ninth brother. Lin K nodded and turned to the Nie family higher-ups. Everyone, please. They called it escorting, but in truth, Azura was restricting them. The members of the Nie family looked at each other, the higher-ups frowning involuntarily. They were higher-ups from the Nie family, but Lord Azura wanted to imprison them? What outrageous joke was this? Master, this is Nie family's business, and Lord Azura is an outsider, after all, so I don't think it'd be proper for him to interfere with our Nie family's family business, right? A Nie family elder asked, looking at Yuanwan. Yuanwan glanced at the elder who spoke. What's between Lord Azura and I is considered family business, while what's between you and I can only be considered official business. Understood? The Nie family higher-ups were rendered speechless. After saying that, Yuanwan quickly rushed toward the hospital with Si Yin. Yuanwan was burning with anxiety, immensely worried about Nameless Nie's injuries and poison. In truth, with Nameless Nie's body constitution, his injuries should be considered superficial wounds, but the poison he was inflicted with could steal a person's life. Yuanwan didn't dare to think deeply about what would happen if something bad befell Nameless Nie. Faced with Yuanwan's incredibly anxious expression, Si Yin merely kept her company silently. Regarding the situation, he wasn't clairvoyant and couldn't raise someone from the dead, so they could only listen to the doctor when it came to Nameless Nie's condition and let fate take Nameless Nie wherever it would take him. Is this it? Yuanwan stared at the hospital ahead a long time later and turned to Si Yin. He responded. Agio, is this hospital good? Yuanwan was brimming with worry. This is the best hospital in the independent state. Si Yin softly comforted her. I already told the best doctor in Azura to stay by your brother's side and keep a constant watch over him. Thank you. Yuanwan nodded. Even so, Yuanwan was still fretting with worry and felt a trace of fear toward the hospital up ahead. She had no idea what kind of news awaited her there. A moment later, Yuanwan followed Si Yin inside the hospital and directly headed to the intensive care unit. You're Miss Worryless from the Nie family? Outside a room, a group of doctors were discussing something and immediately received Yuanwan when they saw her. Whether it was the Nie family or the Fearless Alliance, their fame in the independent state didn't need to be mentioned. There wasn't anyone who didn't know them. Their fame exploded especially after President Fearless recovered her identity as a daughter of the Nie family. Doctor, how's my brother? Yuanwan hastily asked the doctors. Well, a doctor shook his head at Yuanwan and sighed. Miss Worryless, your brother ingested a lethal poison, although we conducted emergency care immediately and pumped his stomach. The time he was sent here was still a little too late. Following the doctor's words, Yuanwan's complexion turned ashy instantly, and she staggered back slightly, but was caught by Si Yin. How can that? Doctor, are you mistaken? My brother's body constitution is very strong. Yuanwan looked panicked, her speech turning incoherent. Miss Worryless, your brother's body constitution is very strong indeed, but he was poisoned by a lethal poison that spreads via blood, so it's useless regardless of how strong a person's constitution is unless there is an antidote. The doctor was helpless. Although he said that a lethal poison like withered butterfly didn't have an antidote. Miss Worryless, we're very sorry. We really tried our best. Yuanwan was deathly pale, and the man next to her didn't know how to comfort her as he looked at her. Agio, I want to spend some time with my brother. An unknown amount of time passed before Yuanwan spoke to Si Yin. All right, Si Yin wanted to speak, but hesitated. Any words right now were too weak, so he could only pat her hair comfortingly in the end. After obtaining permission from a doctor, Yuanwan entered the hospital room by herself. Nameless Nya was lying in bed, alone and unmoving with an oxygen mask over his nose and mouth. There wasn't a trace of pain on his face. It was as though he was merely sleeping, awfully serene. Brother, Yi Wanwan walked to the side of the bed and tightly grasped Nameless Nya's hands. Brother, wake up. Didn't you want to get rich? Do business? Wake up. I'll give all of the Fearless Alliance and the Nya family's business to you. Also, I'll tell Agio to give all of his business to you too. How about that? Yi Wanwan stared at the motionless, nameless Nya on the hospital bed, a mist rising over her eyes. She gently shook Nameless Nya's arm. She couldn't lose him. That was a pain she couldn't endure in her life. In her mind, dribs and drabs of her past with Nameless Nya faintly surfaced. Yi Wanwan left the Nya family when she was young and lived with their grandpa, but it was precisely that which made her every interaction with Nameless Nya extraordinarily precious and extraordinarily valuable. Brother, do you still remember? When I was young, I was bullied by someone, and you picked up a brick to smash that guy's head many times. Inside the ward, Yi Wanwan smiled at times, cried at others. Outside the ward, Si Yihan remained silent. Brother, do you know? This time, you were protecting me again. Even though you lost your consciousness already, you were still protecting me, your useless sister. Brother, no matter how outsiders view you, you're always the mightiest hero in my mind. Brother, wake up. Didn't you once say that as long as I could fend off 3 moves from you, you would agree to all of my reasonable and unreasonable requests? I can definitely take 3 moves from you now, perhaps even more. You can't weasel out of it. You have to wake up and fulfill your promise. I'm begging you. Yi Wanwan clutched Nameless Nya's hands tighter and tighter. It was though she would lose hold of her brother if she loosened her grip even slightly, and he would never reappear in her life again. Yi Wanwan stayed in the hospital room without taking a step away, accompanying Nameless Nya the whole night. And outside the hospital room, Si Yihan also didn't take a single step away and stood guard on such a miserable night. The next morning, faint rays of sunlight scattered in the hospital room through the window. Yi Wanwan dazedly opened her eyes and subconsciously reached for Nameless Nya's hands. Brother, don't. Before Yi Wanwan finished speaking, she discovered the bed was empty. Unease and hysteria enveloped her heart instantly. Within seconds, Yi Wanwan shot up with panic all across her face and wanted to sprint out of the ward. However, she had just stood up when she discovered Nameless Nya sitting by the table next to the window, dressed in his patient's gown with one leg propped over his knee. He was taking a bite from the partially eaten apple in his hand. Yi Wanwan stared at Nameless Nya, her mind turning blank. Meanwhile, Nameless Nya dumbfoundedly looked back at her. Want some? Upon seeing a lack of response from her, Nameless Nya handed his apple to her. Yi Wanwan's gaze landed on the apple he was handing to her, and she reflexively accepted it. After his apple was taken, Nameless Nya wiped his mouth and picked up a pear from the tray and started eating it. Sister, I'm telling you, I'm starving to death. Why is there only fruit here? Nameless Nya slurred out inarticulately. Yi Wanwan quickly put the apple aside and looked at Nameless Nya. Brother, hold on, my brain is a little messy. Let's get this clear. You're fine? Nameless Nya was bewildered. Who said I'm fine? Motherfucker, there isn't a spot on my body that doesn't hurt. I was nearly beaten to death by those fucking bastards. They were seriously ruthless. There isn't a spot in his body that doesn't hurt. He was nearly beaten to death? Is that the main point? Wasn't the main point him drinking ice pear juice that contained a lethal poison? Doctor, brother, don't move. I'm gonna go call the doctor. Yi Wanwan turned to sprint out. Nameless Nya instantly pulled Yi Wanwan back. Call a doctor? Call what doctor? Didn't I just take a round of beating? There's nothing major about that. Look at you. You sent me to the hospital for such a trivial matter. Doesn't the hospital cost anything? Brother isn't lecturing you, but you're being too extravagant and wasteful. Yi Wanwan was utterly stupefied. This absolutely wasn't a dying flash of lucidity. Her brother was absolutely full of vigor and energy and didn't look poisoned in the slightest. If it weren't for you dragging me back, why would I have been beaten up so miserably? You'll pay for the hospital cost, and also the nutrition cost, or whatever. You'll pay for it all. Nameless Nia lamented with a sigh a moment later. Yuan, weren't you lethally poisoned? Yuan was stunned. Lethally poisoned? Which poison? Nameless Nia asked. It was withered butterfly, a 100% fatal poison. Yuan hastily answered. Did Nameless Nia get amnesia? Oh, I remember now. You're talking about that. Nameless Nia pursed his lips. I have a goo insect inside my body that eats every poison. I'm impervious to poison, all right? Forget about withered butterfly, but I'm not afraid of withered leopard either. Ooh, Yuan slapped herself on the head. She actually forgot about Dead Man by Nameless Nia's side. She didn't know what goo insect was so fearsome to allow someone to become impervious to poison. However, seeing how Nameless Nia was so vigorous and lively despite falling victim to the lethal poison, withered butterfly, Nameless Nia must be telling the truth. It had to be said, Nameless Nia's Dead Man was seriously a character. Back then, her love goo incident was all due to him too. Yuan stared at Nameless Nia as though she wanted to say something, but ended up staying silent. She took half a step forward and lightly embraced Nameless Nia. What are you doing? Nameless Nia glanced at Yuan. Brother, as long as you're fine. That's good, that's good. Yuan softly said, a smile beaming on her face. Damn, when did you turn so corny? I'm not prepared for this, or used to this, all right? Nameless Nia said. Yuan immediately let go of Nameless Nia and demanded coldly, since you weren't poisoned, why did you tell me to run yesterday? Nameless Nia was baffled by her words. What nonsense is that? So many people wanted to kill us. If we didn't run, were we going to stay and let them saute us for dinner? Then why did you clutch your stomach? Yuan asked. My stomach hurt. Nameless Nia replied matter-of-factly. Yuan, freaking. His stomach hurt. Look, although I have a goo insect inside my body and am impervious to poison, there still needs to be a process. It's not some magic potion or elixir and can eliminate all ailments. No matter how weak that withered butterfly is, it's still a fatal poison, and the goo insect takes time to eat the poison inside my body, so, of course, my stomach hurts. Nameless Nia spoke so clearly and logically that Yuan didn't know how to respond for a while. Say, why did you dawdle yesterday? I told you to run, but you wouldn't run. If you ran away, I would have run away already. My stomach was hurting to hell, but you still wouldn't run. You seriously screwed your dad over. No, screwed your brother over. Nameless Nia complained. Yuan, how should I respond to that? I was worried to death, afraid that something bad would happen to Nameless Nia. But in the end, he merely had a stomachache. If you ran ages ago, I could have sent them flying with a kick then ran. Why would have I been beaten like that? Look at how my face was pummeled by their fists. Nameless Nia harumphed. Hearing this, Yuan's lips twitched. She wanted to fuck him up. Yuan finally understood that she couldn't use normal logic to understand her brother. Before Yuan could say anything, the hospital room door was pushed open, and Si entered with 2 portions of breakfast in hand. Brother-in-law, you're finally here. Did you want to starve me to death? Nameless Nia quickly took both breakfasts. Your brother was hungry and told me to buy breakfast for him. You were asleep, so I didn't wake you up, Si quietly explained. Si brought out another portion of breakfast and handed it to Yuan. This is yours. Brother-in-law, I feel like my sister's breakfast looks more delicious. Nameless Nia turned to Si. It's the same. Yuan shot Nameless Nia a look. Fine. Nameless Nia shrugged. Have you eaten yet? Let's eat together. Yuan pulled Si to sit on the bed. It's fine. I've eaten, Si replied softly. As Yuan looked at Nameless Nia and Si, her lips turned up and happiness filled her heart. All right, brother. It's your birthday in a few days. Yuan looked at Nameless Nia. That's right. What about it? Nameless Nia looked curious. What present do you want, brother? Yuan asked with a smile. Nameless Nia rubbed his chin, falling into contemplation. A moment later, he looked at Yuan again and pensively asked, How about Say whatever you want. Yi Wanwan's smile didn't decrease. How about you give me a kowtow? Nameless Nye suggested. Yi Wanwan. See Yihin. Yi Wanwan stared at Nameless Nye. What did he say? He wants me to give him a kowtow? What does he mean? Freaking, you're just celebrating a birthday. What do you mean by having me kowtow to you, huh? Yi Wanwan wanted nothing more than to slap Nameless Nye to the ground. Didn't you say whatever I wanted? Then what's wrong with you kowtowing to me to celebrate my birthday? Isn't it normal to kowtow to the birthday boy? Nameless Nye answered matter-of-factly. Yi Wanwan took a deep breath, trying to keep herself calm. Did her and Nameless Nye's elements conflict? Brother-in-law, is there anything wrong with what I said? What's wrong with me having your wife giving me a kowtow to celebrate my birthday? Nameless Nye asked Si Yihin. Si Yihin. Nameless Nye scratched his chin and reluctantly conceded. It's fine if you don't kowtow to me, but you have to repeat what you said to me earlier. Yi Wanwan looked at her brother in alarm. Repeat what? Nameless Nye's eyes shone brightly, and his expression turned anticipatory. The line where you called me the mightiest hero in your mind. Yi Wanwan never expected him to have overheard her saying this in his unconscious state. No thanks. I would rather kowtow. Yi Wanwan never would have expected him to have heard everything she said last night. Forget it, I won't celebrate this birthday or make you kowtow to me. Nameless Nye looked at Yi Wanwan and Si Yihin and chuckled light. The two of you have to do well. Yi Wanwan. This seriously didn't sound like something Nameless Nye would say. Brother-in-law, from now on, I'll leave my sister to you. If you make her suffer the slightest grievance, you can ask about the prestige of me. Nameless Nye, in the independent state, Nameless Nye said with a harumph. Si Yihin. Yi Wanwan was exasperated. Ask about his prestige in the independent state? Does he have any prestige? Which faction would dare to seek out Nameless Nye's group for any mercenary missions? They were renowned for being unreliable and wouldn't do anything concrete despite adamantly demanding money. They should forget about this prestige thing. Ah, sister, look at this husband of yours. He's bad at expressing himself, so he's probably a reticent man. If anything happens in the future, you two must communicate in time. If he doesn't communicate with you, you have to go communicate with him, got it? Nameless Nye lectured Yi Wanwan with a solemn expression. All right, I got it. Yi Wanwan sighed. He really resembled a parent. Before Yi Wanwan could say anything else, she was startled. Brother, why is your nose bleeding? Nameless Nye reflexively pinched his nose and fell into deep thought when he saw the blood on his hand. Could it be there's too much blood in my body? Is it because I'm too strong? Yi Wanwan, forget I said anything. Shit, I accepted several mercenary missions earlier. I nearly forgot about them. Nameless Nye's expression abruptly changed, and he immediately pulled off his patient gown, looking around the room. Where are my clothes? Your clothes all got ripped and torn, so how could you still wear them? Yi Wanwan glanced at him. Damn, what should I do then? Nameless Nye's gaze landed on Si Yihin. Brother-in-law, how about you lend your clothes to me to wear for a while? I have something urgent. Si Yihin, I bought some for you. Yi Wanwan took out a new outfit from under the bed. I was afraid you wouldn't have clothes to wear when you woke up, so I had 7 stars specifically bring some here. The size should be right. After Nameless Nye finished dressing, he turned to Yi Wanwan and instructed, Come home for dinner tonight. I'll cook. Then Nameless Nye fierily dashed out of the ward. Let's go back and rest a bit. A moment later, Si Yihin suggested to her. Yi Wanwan had been by Nameless Nye's side at the hospital and barely closed her eyes. Min, how about you come back to the Nye residence with me and rest a bit? Yi Wanwan mockingly looked at Si Yihin. Sure. Si Yihin nodded. If you don't think any problems will happen with Nye Linglong, Yi Wanwan, I'll return to Azura first and come find you after I've finishing taking care of the matter, Si Yihin said. All right, Yi Wanwan agreed. Indeed, Si Yihin had to head back to Azura to set her mind at ease regarding Nye Linglong. As for the Nye family, Yi Wanwan didn't plan to imprison Nye Linglong at the Nye residence, since Nye Linglong's relationships in the Nye family were very intricate. If she was imprisoned in the Nye residence, Yi Wanwan couldn't anticipate what kind of situation might happen if someone secretly played dirty and released Nye Linglong. After Si Yihan dropped Yi Wanwan in front of the Nye residence by car, he left. Seeing Yi Wanwan return, the Nye family guards immediately straightened their backs and nodded toward Yi Wanwan in greeting. Everyone in the Nye family knew about the matter with Nye Linglong, so worryless Nye naturally became the head of the Nye family now. After Yi Wanwan returned to the Nye residence, First Elder was the first to seek her out. Worryless, what's the matter with Nye Linglong? First Elder asked her with a deep frown. He previously felt something was amiss, that Nye Linglong mobilized several elders and some of the Nye family's fighting force without informing him. Second great uncle, Nye Linglong brought people to kill my brother and me, Yi Wanwan answered. Right now, the only person Yi Wanwan could trust in the entire Nye family was her second great uncle aside from that real, unreliable brother of hers. Hence, she briefed the whole story to him. After hearing Yi Wanwan's explanation, astonishment filled First Elder's face. Nye Linglong, that bastard, actually did something like that? First Elder yelled in fury. Thankfully, both Yi Wanwan and nameless Nye were fine. Nye Linglong is now imprisoned in Azura. We just need to wait until we force the information of the mastermind out of her, Yi Wanwan said. Good, then I feel reassured. Also, all the higher-ups who participated in your killing this time will need to be punished, First Elder said after a moment of thought. Yi Wanwan nodded. That was for certain. Those higher-ups of the Nye family needed to be punished. However, as she said earlier, she needed to make them hand over their power first, or else chaos would ensue in the Nye family. Yi Wanwan immediately started discussing a plan with First Elder. After they finished deciding on a plan, the night had turned dark. All right, worryless. I'll act according to plan first. Also, in the upcoming days, it'd be best to dispatch more people to scout for information regarding your parents, as well as Nye Linglong. I think she's the most like suspect, First Elder said. Yi Wanwan didn't need First Elder to remind her of this point to know this. She naturally wouldn't neglect Nye Linglong's side of things. Seconds after First Elder left, nameless Nye pushed open the door and entered. Where did you go to party? Yi Wanwan asked him. Didn't I tell you? I want to take care of some business. Nameless Nye glanced at her. Have you gotten old? Do you have a bad memory? Yi Wanwan, does he want to fight with me? I returned ages ago and worked to death in the kitchen for half a day. I finished making dinner already, so hurry and come to eat, Nameless Nye said. In Yi Wanwan's memory, Nameless Nye didn't know how to cook, and his culinary skills were rather good. Then it's my luck that I get to eat something delicious. After saying that, Yi Wanwan followed Nameless Nye to the Nye residence's dining room. Dead Man, Spray of Flowers, and the rest of the group were also in the dining room. At the dinner table, Nameless Nye kept serving dishes to Yi Wanwan. These are all your favorites. Do you still remember how you especially like to eat the sweet and sour spare ribs I make? Eat more. They're good, Yi Wanwan praised. The majority of the table of dishes Nameless Nye prepared was consumed by brick-moving foreigner, while Yi Wanwan finished a smaller portion. All right, sister, I just accepted a major mission, so it will be a while before I come back. Without me by your side, you have to be more careful. Remember this. Don't butt into unnecessary matters. Nothing is more important than your life, Nameless Nye earnestly instructed. All right, I got it. Yi Wanwan was exasperated. She'd been listening to his nagging all day long. Who didn't know their life was the most important? All right, keep eating. I'll go pack up first so I can leave. After saying that, Nameless Nye got up and left. Yi Wanwan looked at the dining table, which looked like a vacuum had run over it, with a dumbfounded expression. Keep eating, eat what? So yummy. Today's a lucky day. I've never eaten a meal cooked by the captain. I had no idea the captain had this kind of hidden skill. Brick-moving foreigner burped in satisfaction. Yi Wanwan turned to brick-moving foreigner. She really wasn't used to him saying, eating a meal. Forget about you. Even I didn't know. Spray of Flowers also interjected. All right. Yi Wanwan's gaze landed on Iceberg Man. How's that business deal going? Spray of flowers and Taoist devotees' ears perked up instantly. Business deal? What business deal? You have to look after us more, boss. Taoist devotee hastily said. It's not like it's a business deal with you, Yuan replied. It's the same since we're a team. Boss, if you have to hire someone, you can't just hire Dead Man. We're a team, a single entity. You have to hire all of us, or else our full power won't be deployed and will diminish greatly. Taoist devotee said. Yuan ignored Taoist devotee and focused on Iceberg Man again. Almighty One, your goo is rather fearsome. Of course it's fearsome. Dead Man's goo. Never mind. I won't say any more. You've personally experienced it yourself, Spray of Flowers said with a smile. Yuan. Freaking, you just had to mention that. I won't hound you about the love goo from last time anymore. But how about you sell a few of your poison immune goo to me? I'll pay a high price. Name a price, and I won't blink or bargain. Tell me how many 10,000s you want. Yuan had a serious expression. Taoist devotee, Spray of Flowers, and the others were dumbstruck. High price, won't bargain, how many 10,000s? What a freaking high price. She was the magnificent matriarch of the Nyef family, the president of the Fearless Alliance, the mistress of Azura, yet she said something like that without a hint of embarrassment. Boss, how about you sell it to me? Tell me how many 10,000s you want, and I'll buy it and won't bargain. Taoist devotee said. Yuan. Their appetite had gotten big. Previously, they'd be overrun with joy with just a few hundred or 1,000, but now they weren't satisfied with a few 10,000s. Tykes, you've changed. Yuan looked at the group with an aggrieved expression and sighed exasperatedly. Fine. Let Dead Man sell me that goo insect that makes you impervious to poison, and I will buy a few. Give me a cheaper price. It's a deal if it's appropriate, and we can discuss it if it isn't, Yuan relented. In a place like the Independent State, this goo was definitely a treasure, so Yuan had to get her hands on a few regardless of how much she had to spend. One for her, one for Tang, one for Siyin. It'd be great if she could buy more so she could equip the people around her with it. I don't have it, the taciturn Iceberg Man finally uttered at this valuable occasion. What? Are you afraid I can't afford it? Yuan asked indignantly. She wasn't willing to believe she couldn't even afford a goo. Say, boss, are you serious or are you joking with us? Taoist devotee asked Yuan in astonishment. Boss, the main point isn't whether you're sincere or not. You're being too mystical. What is this goo that makes you impervious to poison? If you really had something like that, prescribe us a few. We buy it regardless of the cost. Spray of Flowers said. What did you say? Yuan frowned deeply. There really isn't something that mystical. No matter how fearsome a goo insect is, it'd still die after eating lethal poison, brick-moving foreigner replied. Doesn't your captain have this goo? He said Dead Man prescribed it to him. Yuan said. Huh? Spray of Flowers and Taoist devotee looked at each other, bewildered. Damn, Dead Man, you freaking. You had something this good? Why didn't you bring it out earlier? You prescribed some to the captain, so you've got to prescribe some to us too. Taoist devotee exclaimed emotionally as he shot up. That's right. You and the captain are too disloyal. You had such a treasure and didn't share with us? You've grown quite capable, huh? You can even raise a poison immune goo insect now. Spray of Flowers added. However, Iceberg Man merely looked confused. Dead Man, tell us the truth. Do you really have this kind of goo, and have you prescribed it to the captain? Taoist devotee asked Iceberg Man. No. Iceberg Man shook his head. I knew it. How could that kind of goo exist? If it really did, piece of shit would have bought it at a high price ages ago. Read more chapters at Ist novel. Come. Don't you see how piece of shit carries something to test for poison with him, wherever he goes in fear of someone poisoning him? Taoist devotee nodded in conviction. Yuan's expression shifted as she stared at Iceberg Man. You really haven't given nameless Nya goo that makes someone immune to all poison? No. Iceberg Man shook his head. The color drained from Yuan's face as she heard Iceberg Man's words and recalled Nameless Nie's abnormal behavior today. She immediately dashed out of the Nie residence. Thunder roared in spurts, and a drizzle started. Yuanwan madly dialed Nameless Nie's phone, but no one answered. About half an hour later, she stopped by a towering piece of rock. When Yuanwan looked at the motionless Nameless Nie who was leaning against the rock, she froze in her spot, tears falling from her eyes without inhibition. The rain got heavier, making someone unable to differentiate her tears from the rain. "Brother!" Yuanwan threw her arms around Nameless Nie. A goo that made a person immune to poison didn't exist. Nameless Nie lied to her. Yuanwan finally understood why Nameless Nie kept nagging her today. "Brother, wake up!" Yuanwan sat next to Nameless Nie, but regardless of how loud she was, Nameless Nie didn't give any responses. "Brother, you can't die. You can't die. I'm begging you. I'll kneel down in front of you. I'll kowtow to you." She knelt down next to him. "Didn't you want me to kowtow to you? I'll kowtow to you." Right now, Nameless Nie appeared very peaceful and serene. So peaceful there weren't any movements from his chest. Wan. At that moment, the call on her phone connected. It was Si Yihan's voice. "Agio." Yuanwan was bawling. "What happened?" Si Yihan sounded confused, but serious. "Help me. My brother lied to me. There isn't any goo that makes you impervious to all poison. My brother is gone." After uttering that last sentence, Yuanwan couldn't hold on anymore, and her vision turned dark. She slipped down next to Nameless Nie with a plop and lost all consciousness. Time passed. It was akin to a moment, but also akin to a century. During her unconsciousness, Yuanwan had a dream. In the dream, both Nameless Nie and her were in their youth and chasing each other while playing. Whenever she got into trouble, that boy would always stand up and stick up for her. Sometimes, he'd beat the other person until they bled. Other times, they'd flee in panic from his thrashing. "Nameless Nie, you could have ignored me. Who told you to play the hero every single time?" The girl coldly snorted as she looked at the ragged-looking boy wearing a t-shirt. The boy smiled faintly. "Your martial arts skills are a lot weaker than mine. If I don't help you, who else will help you? Don't think that I want to stick up for you, but TCH, who told you to be my younger sister?" "Brother?" Suddenly, Yuanwan's eyes shot open. Her body was soaked by her sweat. Si Yihan was by her side. His expression turned complicated when he saw Yuanwan waking up. Spray of Flowers and Taoist devotee were looking at Yuanwan as though they wanted to say something, but ended up not being able to speak a word. "Agio, where's my brother?" Yuanwan snatched Si Yihan's warm hand, her expression helpless. "Wanwan." Si Yihan didn't know what to say. Yuanwan's helpless and panicked state was a thorn in his heart. Mommy, Tang, who was in the corner, swiftly dashed forward and hugged Yuanwan. Tang, baby, tell Mommy, where's your uncle?" Yuanwan tightly clutched her son, tears streaming from her eyes. "Mommy, Uncle, he accepted a big job and went on a long trip." Tang's voice was slightly trembling. As Si Yihan watched Yuanwan and their son, Tang, his eyes coldly glinted. "Discover the culprit at all costs." Soon, Si Yihan sent a message to one of his 4 Azuras, Heavenly Azura. "Agio, take me to your headquarters." A long while later, Yuanwan's tears stopped. Her expression was frighteningly placid. "Okay." Si Yihan finally nodded after much consideration. On the way to Azura's headquarters, Yuanwan was silent, blankly staring outside the window. Si Yihan and Tang stayed next to her, but didn't say anything. In the afternoon, the group arrived in Azura's headquarters. "Take me to Nie Linglong," Yuanwan said. Sensing Yuanwan's abnormal state, Si Yihan wanted to accompany her during the interrogation, but Yuanwan refused. In the end, Si Yihan could only stand guard near the prison so that he could rush over immediately if anything happened and assure no problems would arise. Inside the prison, when Nie Linglong, who was covered in bruises and wounds, saw Yuanwan, she sneered. "What? Even Azura can't weasel any information out of you, but you think you can? You? Do you think I came here to weasel information out of you?" Yi Wanwan's bone-chilling gaze settled on Ling Long. Heh, I suddenly remember. Your garbage brother probably couldn't withstand a poison like withered butterfly. How is he? Is he dead yet? Ling Long mockingly looked at Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan's expression shifted. Yi Wanwan didn't waste any words and shot to Ling Long's side. She ruthlessly punched the woman's face, distorting it further. Huh, it looks like I guessed right. Your garbage brother did really die. How is it to witness your own brother dying in front of your eyes? How did it feel? Do you want to share it with me? Ling Long shouted coldly. I know you're a member of the direct line. I will only ask this once. Yi Wanwan expressionlessly stared at Ling Long. Who is the mysterious man you met last time? Also, what is the direct line's objective? You want to know? Can't you go and investigate it yourself? Ling Long cheerily retorted. One last question. Where are my dad and mom? Did you do it? I'll only give you one chance. Yi Wanwan continued icily. Are you talking about those two old geezers? Of course it was me. I can tell you they're still alive, but perhaps they're about to die. You want to know where they are? Kneel down and beg me. Maybe I'll tell you if I'm happy, Ling Long said. Great. Yi Wanwan nodded. I gave you the chance. It was you who didn't treasure it. Everything will end now. As she spoke, she pulled out a dagger from her side. What a joke. You dare to harm me. Ling Long wasn't frightened in the slightest. If I die, you'll never get any information regarding Madame Nye and Patriarch Nye. Also, the direct line will soon launch a war on the independent state. You dare? So what if she was captured? Ling Long absolutely didn't believe they dared to take her life away. She was too important. Ling Long had just finished speaking when the chillingly glinting dagger in Yi Wanwan's hand pierced into Ling Long's left arm. Ling Long's tragic howl quickly followed. A second later, Yi Wanwan expressionlessly pulled the dagger out and pierced Ling Long's right arm next. Have you gone crazy? Ling Long's complexion was pale, and the intense agony caused her face to further contort. Has this woman gone crazy? Is she really ignoring the fate of the independent state and her parents? She actually dares to treat me like this? Yi Wanwan stared at Ling Long without a word. She grabbed Ling Long by the hair and gently placed the icy dagger against Ling Long's neck. Brother, a mist covered Yi Wanwan's eyes. I've avenged you. The next second, Yi Wanwan put force in the dagger and broke the skin on Ling Long's neck layer by layer. Worryless, no. You lunatic. At that moment, Ling Long finally felt a fear she had never felt before overcoming her. In her memories, worryless Nye was indeed a lunatic. She could ignore all the consequences and do every crazy thing that no one would expect. Sister, I'll talk. I'll tell you everything. Before Ling Long could finish speaking, her mouth was covered by Yi Wanwan. Ling Long fearfully looked at Yi Wanwan, but couldn't spit out a single word. Sure, Yi Wanwan made a silencing motion at Ling Long. Don't talk. I already gave you a chance to speak earlier. It was you who gave it up, no? Ling Long frantically shook her head. She was afraid. The drape of death caused her to incessantly shudder. You killed my brother. You won't be the only one. Every person behind you will also be buried with my brother. Then Yi Wanwan slashed the dagger across Ling Long's neck without any hesitation. As Yi Wanwan watched Ling Long breathe her last breath, her face turned colder and she tossed the blood-stained dagger to the side. At that moment, Si Yihin, who had heard the odd noise coming from the cell, opened the cell door and entered. After seeing the lifeless Ling Long, his gaze landed on Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan looked like she was a crazed, bloodthirsty demon who had climbed out from the pits of hell. Her bone-chilling gaze caused Si Yihin's heart to ache immensely. Si Yihin walked toward Yi Wanwan immediately, gently pulling her into his arms. Ajio! Yi Wanwan deeply burrowed her head in his arms. Si Yihin could feel her tears soaking his shirt. Si Yihin quietly replied. Ajio, I miss my brother. I miss him. A second later, Yi Wanwan tightly hugged Si Yihan, trembling in his arms slightly. He was your mightiest hero, Si Yihan softly whispered. At Azura, Tang Dang and Si Yihan kept Yi Wanwan company without leaving her for a second. After several days, Yi Wanwan's mood finally improved. That same day, Yi Wanwan returned to the Nye residence. The Nye family had been cleansed entirely, and the power of all the higher-ups who participated in Yi Wanwan and nameless Nye's attempted murder had been handed to her second great-uncle, the Nye family's first elder. Yi Wanwan didn't expect her second great-uncle to act so swiftly or eliminate all of the borers in the Nye family in such a short amount of time. Worryless. Actually, this had nothing to do with me. Second great-uncle sighed. Yi Wanwan frowned, unable to understand him. It was only these 2 days that I learned. In truth, when your elder brother returned that day, he swiftly and decisively took care of all those higher-ups and elders, and also withdrew all of their power, second great-uncle explained. It was brother, was it? Yi Wanwan's lips turned up in a bitter smile. That's right, it was my brother again. That day, he hastily left the hospital, saying something about accepting a big job. Her elder brother was a liar, a giant liar, from head to toe. On the rear mountain of the Nye residence, there was a burial mound. As the sun set in the west, it scattered golden-yellow rays on this spot, creating a warm environment. Yi Wanwan held up 2 jugs of liquor as she sat in front of the grave. Brother, this is your favorite liquor. An indescribable smile hung on Yi Wanwan's lips as she downed the jug of liquor in one go before pouring the other jug on the ground. Brother, does it taste good? Yi Wanwan murmured softly. Brother, here's your other favorite thing. Yi Wanwan picked up a brick of gold and buried it in the ground. Soon, the liquor hit her and a crazy smile appeared on her face as she sat in her spot. Involuntarily, the scene of her first meeting with nameless Nye back in China surfaced in her mind, along with the dribs and drabs that followed. Nameless Nye made her temporarily act as Tong Tong's mommy and shoved Tang Tang into her care. Then he participated in some mission completion reality show and sent a TV, a fridge, and the other household appliances he won to her as Tong Tong's living expenses, which eventually led to him being banned from all the mission completion shows. In her state of sobriety and intoxication, 2 streams of tears slid down her face. Brother, if there's a next life, I still want to be your sister, and I hope you'll be my brother still, but in the next life, I'll be the one to protect you. Whoever dares to bully you, I'll stand up for you and beat them black and blue. Brother, you are the mightiest superhero in my heart. During this period of time, the independent state was oddly peaceful, and nothing major happened with both the Nye family and the Fearless Alliance. Yi Wanwan dispatched a lot of manpower from the Nye family and the Fearless Alliance to look into Madame Nye and Patriarch Nye's whereabouts, while Azura continued to investigate the island they previously discovered. The only noteworthy finding was that dead man quietly left at some unknown point after nameless Nye left, disappearing from Yi Wanwan's sight. So Taoist devotee, spray of flowers, and brick-moving foreigner had been searching for dead man's whereabouts. Yi Wanwan felt a trace of confusion regarding dead man's departure, not knowing what he was up to. Could it be he was cultivating in seclusion to foster a goo insect that could raise a person from the dead? Of course, that was merely a fleeting thought, and Yi Wanwan didn't think into it more deeply unrealistically. Agio, how's your investigation going? In the early morning, Yi Wanwan called Si Yihan. There will be news within 3 days, Si Yihan responded. After chatting with Si Yihan for a moment, Yi Wanwan hung up. Since Si Yihan was looking into the island every day and didn't stay at Azura's headquarters too much, Yi Wanwan picked Tang Dang back up, and Si Yihan visited the Nye residence whenever he was free. Right now, everyone in the independent state knew about Lord Azura's relationship with the Nye family, so Si Yihan visiting the Nye residence was par for the course. Yi Wanwan had just hung up when some unhurried knocking came from the door. The door's unlocked. Enter. As Yi Wanwan called out, she looked a bit confused. who had come to the Nier residence study to seek her out this early in the morning. The door to the study was pushed open. "It's you." When Yi Wan saw the newcomer, her brows instantly furrowed. The visitor wasn't a stranger. It was the vice president of the martial arts union. "Huh, Miss Worryless, I have something to discuss with you." The vice president of the martial arts union greeted her with a light chuckle. "How did you enter the Nier residence?" Yi Wan wore an apathetic expression. "The Nier residence? I can naturally enter it whenever I want to. Back then, I could even take away Emperor Ji and the leader of Heavenly Owl, so the Nier residence naturally isn't difficult to impenetrate," the vice president replied. "The martial arts union." Yi Wan narrowed her eyes. "In other words, it was the martial arts union that abducted Ji Shuran and the leader of Heavenly Owl, Kang. Although Yi Wan previously suspected the martial arts union, it was mere suspicion, and she actually suspected the direct line the most. She never expected the martial arts union to really be the culprit. "So, Miss Worryless, will you leave with me, or will I have to take you with me?" the vice president asked with a smirk. "You?" Yi Wan slowly stood up, her eyes intently focused on the vice president. "You're indeed very strong for being able to abduct Ji Shuran and Kang. However, I'm afraid it won't be so easy for you to abduct me." "I'll have a try and see, am I right?" The vice president strode toward Yi Wan. "You're dead." Yi Wan's eyes glinted coldly, and she swung her fist at the man. Yi Wan and the vice president's fists collided, producing a stifled sound. When they exchanged blows, Yi Wan managed to make some calculations. The vice president of the martial arts union was indeed very strong, but it would be a fairy tale for him to abduct her from the Nier residence. Yi Wan was certain this vice president wouldn't be a match for her if she attacked at full power without holding back. It was just that. Yi Wan's eyes shifted. She pretended to be no match for him and staggered back. "You?" Yi Wan donned a fearful expression. "I'm not your equal. Don't kill me. I'll go with you." The vice president was startled. They just exchanged blows, and Worryless Nia wasn't in a disadvantageous position. So why did she suddenly admit defeat? However, the vice president didn't think it was a trick and thought everything was still within his control. "Then I'll have to mistreat you, Miss Worryless. Tie your hands together." The vice president threw a string of rope toward her. Yi Wan nodded and obediently tied her hands together. "However, I'm very curious. This is the Nier residence. Even though you managed to enter, I'm afraid it won't be so easy to abduct me. Once you alert anyone in the Nier family, I'm afraid you yourself can't escape, let alone abduct me," Yi Wan mused. The vice president smiled faintly. "Miss Worryless doesn't need to worry about this point." After saying that, he walked behind Yi Wan and moved a painting hanging on the wall. Under Yi Wan's astonished gaze, the vice president actually opened a secret passage from the study in the Nier residence. Why was there a secret passage in the study? Moreover, this secret passage was most likely newly created, looking like it had been dug from the outside into the Nier residence. "As I said earlier, it won't be difficult for me to abduct you from the Nier residence, Miss Worryless. Was I right?" The vice president of the martial arts union asked with a chuckle. "The martial arts union is fearsome indeed." Yi Wan nodded. She conceded. They actually dug a secret passage from the outside that directly led to the study of the Nier residence. A realization dawned on Yi Wan at that moment. No wonder those top leaders of the independent state were abducted from their headquarters without notice. It appeared the martial arts union made preparations beforehand. They had schemed for a long time. "If you please, Miss Worryless, visit our ist novel." Calm, the vice president gestured for Yi Wan to enter the secret passage. Yi Wan didn't say anything and strode into the secret passage. After Yi Wan entered the secret passage, the vice president instantly followed and returned the painting in the study back to its original spot from inside the passage flawlessly. As Yi Wan walked in front, her lips curled up into an intrigued smile. The vice president of the martial arts union thought he had abducted her, But he had no idea Yi Wanwan had decided to follow Nameless Nie's plan for a while now. As long as the mastermind behind the abduction of the independent state's leaders appeared, she would surrender and agree to leave on her own. Furthermore, she had discussed this with second great-uncle, first elder of the Fearless Alliance, and see him beforehand. As soon as she disappeared for a day, it meant she was executing Nameless Nie's plan and would leave clues for them. At that time, she would collaborate with them from the inside. The next day, on an island, after abandoning Yi Wanwan on the island, the vice president of the Martial Arts Union hurriedly left. Is this the island where Ji Shiran, Haitang, and the others are imprisoned? Yi Wanwan muttered as she examined her surroundings. At that moment, from the corner of her eyes, Yi Wanwan caught a somewhat familiar figure digging into the ground crazily with a hoe in his hand. Yi Wanwan inspected the somewhat familiar figure, her brows furrowing. Why did that figure resemble Xia? No way. Why would Xia appear in this kind of place? Yi Wanwan strode ahead suspiciously. The man had an unkempt appearance with dirt pasted to his face, so Yi Wanwan couldn't be certain. Xia. Yi Wanwan furtively called to the man. The man with the hoe instantly reacted and reflexively turned to Yi Wanwan. Why you? It's you. Xia looked more stunned than Yi Wanwan when he saw her. Yi Wanwan dumbfoundedly stared at the man in front of her. How did Xia get to this state? No, to be more precise, how did Xia appear in the independent state and get abducted to this wretched place? She surmised that this island was the same as a prison, and its prisoners were nearly all reputable figures from the independent state. However, Xia was a reputable figure in the independent state. That didn't make sense. Before Yi Wanwan could react, Xia sprinted toward her with his hoe and tried to hit her. Instinctively, Yi Wanwan caught the hoe Xia, swung toward her, and flung the hoe along with Xia back. What are you doing? Yi Wanwan surveyed Xia with a deep frown, but she figured it out within moments. In China, she tricked Si Wutian into being arrested, so Xia was probably avenging his father. Yi Wanwan, are you mad? Why the heck did you hit me? Xia slowly climbed up from the ground. Xia, about your father. Yi Wanwan explained the whole story to Xia. Yi Wanwan couldn't do much about Si Wutian. Si Wutian wanted to kill her, so there was no way she would take it lying down and not retaliate. Moreover, Si Wutian brought everything onto his own self. Speaking of which, Yi Wanwan didn't hit Si Wutian or curse him. She merely called the police with a flick of her hand. So whose fault was it? Bai. Xia bitterly smiled and shook his head after listening to her explanation. He brought it on himself. He committed a crime in China, so his capture was to be expected. There's nothing to say about that. Yi Wanwan finally relaxed, knowing that Xia thought that way. Then why were you trying to hit me with a hoe? Yi Wanwan was puzzled. Who the heck was hitting you with a hoe? I merely got excited, suddenly seeing a familiar face. Who the hell knows how long I've been imprisoned in this fucking place? I was just running toward you with a hoe. Who knew what madness struck you and made you hit me? Yi Wanwan. Oh, right. How did you get captured to this damn place? Yi Wanwan looked at him in surprise. Xia sighed. I learned about the existence of the independent state and the Sea clan by chance. After my father went missing, I originally intended to come to the independent state to find him. However, on my way here, I learned from the news that he got imprisoned in China after committing a big crime. After that, I planned to visit the Sea clan, but they said I was the child of some sinner. Yi Wanwan. Aren't you curious about how I appeared here? Yi Wanwan asked Xia. Yi Wanwan didn't respond to that. Her fame wasn't a good kind of fame. All right. How long have you been imprisoned in this place? She inquired. 2 months or so, Xia replied. So, you should be rather familiar with the situation here. Yi Wanwan's eyes brightened. Kinda, Xia answered honestly. Great. Then tell me what's the situation here and who's imprisoned here? Yi Wanwan hastily asked as she sat down next to Xia. Right now, she didn't know anything and coincidentally needed to find someone to spill all the information. This is the bottommost level of the underground prison of the Independent States Martial Arts Union. However, this level isn't underground. Instead, it's on an island, Xia explained. Yuan turned pensive as she listened to Xia. Who could have imagined the lowest level of the underground prison wasn't underground and was on a freaking island? It appeared she guessed correctly. If the island Xiyin discovered wasn't where the Martial Arts Union imprisoned people, there would be a series of trouble. But currently speaking, Azura, the Fearless Alliance, and an entire Nief family had locked their sights onto this island. As long as she cooperated with those leaders on this island and collaborated with Si Yihin and the others from the inside, they could definitely fight their way out easily. Of course, she might have to become familiar with those leaders before that, or else those people would think of her as a madwoman. What are you doing here with the hoe? A moment later, Yuan stared at the hoe Xia was holding, baffled. Digging a tunnel to escape. Xia replied truthfully. Dig a tunnel? Yuan stared at Xia like he was an idiot. If I remember correctly, this is an island in the sea. Do you plan to dig 10,000 miles into the depths of the sea? I know it's an island, but so what? Can't I have some unhappiness? Continue to dig. I won't disturb you. News of President Fearless, by phone, being captured and brought to the island spread far and wide within half a day. In this island prison, after a few days of unrelenting effort, Yuan successfully befriended those old leaders of the independent state. After Yuan recovered the majority of her memories, many faces surfaced in her mind. Since she had seen most of the leaders who were captured there and had interacted with some of them, tricking them, befriending them, progressed rather smoothly. Some days later, in a rundown cell, Yuan sat with 3 people at a table with a brand new deck of cards on the table. Countless powerful big shots from the independent state stood around them. The scene of these powerful and mighty big shots, who were once harder to see than climbing to the heavens, nesting together to watch a round of fight the landlord with great relish and occasionally give directions. Yuan didn't know whether to cry or laugh. Say, by phone, you've changed a lot after not seeing you for many years. I nearly didn't recognize you, a middle-aged man remarked with a light chuckle as he played a card. That's right, President Bai has changed a lot these past years. You're a lot better looking than before. Keep playing cards, why are you wasting words? Hold on, what did you play? Yuan asked. A pair of 7s. Bomb. Yuan casually threw down a bomb. By phone, are you freaking mad? We're a team, so why the hell are you bombing me? The middle-aged man looked at Yuan in shock. Don't waste time. Do you want it or not? Yuan asked. I don't. Can the landlord follow it? Yuan continued. I can't. A3. Yuan smiled slightly. By phone, you freaking. Careful. We're betting a month of Gopher Boy. This isn't a joke. The middle-aged man shot Yuan a glare. In the end, the middle-aged man discovered that Yuan only had a single card in her hand and the rest were bombs, so she successfully bombed the landlord into smithereens. By phone, you've given me such a big gift after meeting me by making me act as a gopher for you 3 for a month. Is that proper? One of the young men asked Yuan. Thank you. I was just lucky. Yuan had a leg propped over her other knee with a smug expression on her face. Just looking at your expression makes me angry. If I wasn't good friends with you, I'd definitely turn into your enemy. The young man sighed exasperatedly. Once upon a time, his faction and the Fearless Alliance were allies in the independent state, and he was good friends with By Phone privately too. Alright, By Phone, if I remember right, didn't you go missing? How did you also get captured to this damn place? Yuan shrugged. It's a long story, so I won't go into it. Anyway, I'm captured now, so what's there to say? Indeed. However, I don't know whether I should be happy or unhappy about seeing you here. Yuan. Oh, right. Yuan looked at the group. Do you know the leader of Heavenly Owl, Haidang, and Emperor G? Rubbish. Who doesn't know Haidang and Emperor G? A leader responded. He had been watching Yuan fight the landlord with the other 3 people. Ah, Haidang. She isn't far from us in District A. This is District B. I remember Emperor G is also in District A, but I don't think I've heard any news about Emperor G recently. No way. Why did I hear that Emperor G escaped already? Emperor G escaped? Everyone was taken aback. This island was located worlds apart from the mainland. So who could escape from here? Emperor G escaped? What joke was that? Did he swim back? I remember there was an idiot last time who wanted to escape from the island. He was quite courageous and directly jumped into the ocean to swim back. However, he wasn't even halfway before he swam back and discovered the place where the martial arts union store their supplies. Which idiot was that lucky? Yuan was intrigued. I think he's called C something. Was it summer or autumn one? I can't remember. Yuan. So, the cards we're using right now are from that storehouse. Yuan inquired curiously. Precisely. We were captured here to be prisoners. Do you think someone would throw in a deck of cards for us to play with? Aside from cards, there was also a lot of medicine and some other random stuff. Anyway, that lad did a good deed. Yuan turned pensive. Compared to the supposed storehouse they found, what Yuan cared about more was the news that Ji Xiuran escaped from the island. When she was being transported to the island, she observed that even the boat ride took a long time. So how did Ji Xiuran escape? Before Yuan could think deeper, a woman whose long hair reached her waist entered. When the woman saw Yuan, astonishment entered her eyes, and she called, "Xiao Feng." Yuan immediately looked back. The newcomer was none other than Haidang. When Yuan first arrived in the independent state and pretended to be President Fearless, she once met Haidang at a gathering between the major factions. Although Haidang acted very passionately back then too, Yuan hadn't recovered her memories yet and had no idea who Haidang was, so she didn't converse with Haidang for too long and made up an excuse to leave. However, upon seeing Haidang again now, Yuan's emotions were different from before. This woman was her best friend in the independent state, and she was both a teacher and a friend. When the Fearless Alliance was first founded, she received valuable assistance from Haidang. Haitang's here. Give me a kiss. A leader's eyes sparkled when he saw Haidang. Scram. Visit our L Ist novel. Calm Haidang shot a look at the man who spoke before pulling Yuan and dragging her outside. Haidang, you're still so violent and tyrannical. I'll love you till I die. Yuan. Is love all he has in his head? Can't he take a look at his circumstances first? A boss is seriously a boss. They have extraordinary idiocy. Soon, Yuan followed Haidang to the island's District A. From Haitang's description, Yuan learned that this island was divided into 3 major districts, B and C, and the people of each district typically didn't interact with other districts and rarely ran into other people. District A was where Haidang and her group were located, while Yuan was previously at District B. As for District C, it was much farther away on the other side of the island. How did you get captured here? Haidang hastily asked Yuan. Forget about that right now. Haidang, where's Ji Xiuran? Yuan pressed. Xiuran has left the island already, Haidang responded. Yuan was dumbfounded. He really escaped? How did Ji Xiuran do it? No way, right? How did he escape? Yuan asked. Who do you think Ji Xiuran is? They wanted to trap him on this little island? I'm afraid it's not so easy, Haidang answered. There was no follow-through after Ji Xiuran escaped. Yuan was puzzled. With Ji Xiuran's personality, he shouldn't have abandoned his friends. Ji Xiuran said the martial arts union might not have any intentions of harming us. So he told us not to worry for now, Haidang said. Ji Xiuran's logic is rather unique. The martial arts union imprisoned us on this island already, yet he thought they still don't have any intentions of harming us. However, on second thought, why didn't the martial arts union directly kill them, but imprison them on this island instead? What was the martial arts union's objective for doing this? All right, here's a letter for you. Ji Xiuran told me to give it to you. Haidang pulled out a letter and handed it to Yuan after a moment of thought. No way, right? Ji Xiuran knew I would get captured here? Yuan was astonished. Don't tell me Ji Xiuran is a clairvoyant. It wasn't that he foresaw you getting captured here. It was just that I needed to hand this letter to you whether you came here or I eventually escaped, Haitang explained. Yi Wanwan didn't dither and open the letter. It had to be said that Ji Xiran's handwriting was outstanding. In contrast, her handwriting was composed of scribbles. You mustn't investigate the matter relating to the direct line anymore. Remember that. In truth, I don't have a grand dream. I just want a plot of good field and a simple life. I want to engage in small business and live plainly. These brief words were enough to make Yi Wanwan dumbstruck in her spot. He told her to stop investigating the direct line and also mentioned a plot of good field and a simple life. Could some celestial being come down from the heavens and tell her what Ji Xiran's letter meant and what he wanted to convey? Why didn't he want her to investigate the direct line? Furthermore, what the heck did a simple life mean? She didn't understand it at all right? And even if there was a reason behind this, he should have at least informed her of the reason, right? Upon seeing Yi Wanwan's peculiar expression, Haitang asked curiously, "What is it? What did he write?" "Haitang, you didn't read Ji Xiran's letter to me?" Yi Wanwan responded. Haitang shook her head. "Never. Ji Xiran intended this letter for you. So why would I read it without your permission?" Yi Wanwan naturally didn't doubt Haitang's character. She immediately handed the letter to Haitang. "See for yourself, Haitang." Haitang accepted Ji Xiran's letter with a puzzled expression. A moment later, her brows furrowed together. "Can you understand what Ji Xiran tried to say?" Yi Wanwan asked the other woman. I really don't." Haitang shook her head. Why did Ji Xiran mention the direct line out of nowhere? Moreover, what did a plot of good field, conducting some business, and living simply mean? Those words didn't seem to connect to the earlier instructions for Yi Wanwan to stop investigating the direct line at all. Yi Wanwan sighed exasperatedly. Was Ji Xiran giving her a decryption game? Unfortunately, her intelligence was limited and she seriously couldn't figure out what information Ji Xiran was trying to give her. Truthfully, couldn't he have spoken more straightforwardly? Did Ji Xiran leave any other words for me? Yi Wanwan inquired. Not really. However, during his deduction, I think Ji Xiran mentioned there had to be a mysterious person who formed a connection with the direct line behind the scenes, and that mysterious person most likely isn't a member of the direct line. Instead, he must be in the dark giving directions, and perhaps even using the direct line to accomplish something, Haitang answered after some thinking. A mysterious person? Yi Wanwan was pensive. Was it the mysterious person who Third Elder said Nieling Long had gone to see in the middle of the night? And also the person who kept wanting to steal her ring? Yi Wanwan wasn't certain whether that mysterious person was a member of the direct line or using the direct line. She had no idea. However, Ji Xiran's speculation was completely on point on one matter. The mysterious person really did use the direct line to have them steal her ring. Based on Ji Xiran's deduction, Yi Wanwan deducted something else. The mysterious person definitely knew the ring she wore represented the paramount power of the Rose of Death, and the owner of this ring could command the Rose of Death and become their new Eric. However, Yi Wanwan previously obtained a rather useful piece of information from Big Dipper's mother. Only members of the Rose of Death knew what this ring represented, and only someone with deep connections with the Rose of Death could know that obtaining this ring was the same as becoming the new leader of the Rose of Death. In other words, that mysterious person definitely wasn't unfamiliar with the Rose of Death. In the midst of Yi Wanwan's contemplation, Haitang softly asked her, "Did you think of something?" Yi Wanwan lightly shook her head. Not yet. Being able to pinpoint a person just based on this amount of information was absolutely a pipe dream. Forget about pinpointing someone. Yi Wanwan still had no idea whether this mysterious person was male or female, old or young, tall or short, fat or thin. What made Yi Wanwan's head hurt the most right now was whether the letter Ji Xiran left for her had anything to do with this mysterious person or not. If it didn't, what was Ji Xiran trying to convey? If it did, what was the meaning and what was the goal? Yi Wanwan felt her head swelling like a balloon. Haitang, are there any other clues? Yuan asked Haidang. Right now, every minute thing that Ji Shiran left behind could be a vital clue, so Yuan didn't want to overlook any useful information. During Ji Shiran's deduction, he was in a flustered state and was even agitated. He wrote down many things but shredded everything. Haidang answered. Are the shreds still here? Yuan hastily questioned. For some reason, Yuan had a feeling that valuable clues were left behind in the paper that Ji Shiran shredded. They haven't been cleaned out yet. I'll take you there. Soon, Yuan and Haidang arrived at the storehouse. This is the storehouse that Xia discovered. Yuan looked surprised as she assessed the spot. You know Xia? Haidang asked casually. Yuan nodded. He's quite lucky and discovered this reserve storehouse. There are many useful items in here, medicine being the most abundant, Haidang said with a smile. As Haidang spoke, she brought over all the paper shreds that Ji Shiran shredded. Yuan was exasperated when she saw the scraps. They were indeed shredded, too shredded even. Let's piece together all these scraps and see if we can find some useful information, Haidang suggested. Okay. Yuan and Haidang started working. After some time passed, Yuan and Haidang speechlessly met each other's eyes. It might look like a simple task, but it, in fact, required a Herculean amount of effort. Piecing these shredded pieces of paper together was no walk in the park. The only saving grace was that Ji Shiran's handwriting was very clean and proper and highly distinguishable. Sigh, thank goodness. If it was me who wrote it, even Jesus wouldn't be able to piece it together, Yuan remarked with a shake of her head. Haidang smiled in response. The afternoon turned into the next morning, and after staying up the whole night without sleeping, Yuan and Haidang finally patched the shredded pieces of paper into a semblance of its original appearance. However, the things Ji Shiran wrote on the paper baffled Yuan further. Forget about Haidang. It would probably be useless regardless of who they called over to take a look. The contents of Ji Shiran's scrap paper did contain some significance, but no one could understand the significance. It's actually like that. Could it be the hypnotism lost its effect, or perhaps too much time passed after the hypnotism, so they remembered everything again and finally returned? Yuan was unable to ascertain anything from the contents of the paper, but managed to grasp a few key points. Hypnotism. Time. Remember again. Return. Yuan and Haidang studied the pieced-together paper for half a day, but unfortunately couldn't glean any clues from it. The sky was turning dark, so Haidang could only escort Yuan back to District B first and give the matter further thought. When the duo arrived at the entrance of the prison, they ran into Xia, who was returning with his hoe. Yuan looked at Xia's dirty appearance and recalled his appearance when he was revered as the school prince and god at Qinghe High School back then, mesmerizing countless girls. She couldn't help but muse inwardly. The past is unbearable to recall. I can't keep looking at this. As soon as Xia saw Yuan like that, he knew her old habit had kicked in. He wiped the dust from his face and snorted. You still care about your looks in a place like this? How leisurely and carefree you are. Yuan raised her brows. So what? Even if I'm at the guillotine, if the executioner is good-looking, I would die more comfortably, no? Xia. Even Haidang was at a loss for words. The trio entered the enormous cell one after the other. Xia had been there for a rather long time, and he performed a meritorious deed by discovering the storehouse. So some leaders enthusiastically greeted him as soon as he entered. Si Chunwan is back. Any reaps today? Visit our El Ist novel. Yuan nearly choked on her own spit after hearing that. Si Chunwan. Xia exploded the second he heard those two words. I'm called Xia. Si. Xia, do you have to mention your old age, huh? How many times do I have to say it? The leader broke into laughter as he kept playing cards with another person sitting opposite of him. Chun and Xia are about the same. About the same? How was it about the same? Yuan was inwardly laughing at Xia's indignant appearance when a familiar-looking leader walked toward her. The leader's hair was braided behind the back of his head, and his signature beard was kept on his chin. Yi Wanwan recognized him to be the leader of Four Seas Gate, Zhao Gao. President Bai, long time no see. Zhao Gao greeted with a laugh. Yi Wanwan calmly smiled in response and answered, "It has indeed been a long time. I trust you've been well since we last met, Gate Leader Zhao?" I've been good. President Bai, sorry for disturbing you, but Bossy wants to see you." Zhao Gao waved his arm towards a certain direction. Yi Wanwan automatically followed the direction of Zhao Gao's arm and saw a man sitting on the only decent quality leather chair in the prison. The man looked to be in his 40s with a pair of turbid eyes, emanating a dark chilliness that made people very uncomfortable. His stare toward Yi Wanwan especially made her feel like a venomous snake had its sight set on her. Yi Wanwan had to think hard to remember to this man was the leader of Hong and Gang He Biao. Hong and Gang didn't possess a great advantage over other famous gangs in terms of overall strength, but He Biao had an elite assassin squad under him whose reputation shook the entire independent state, so no one dared to trifle with him. This squad was passed down to every leader of the Hong and Gang. In fact, a vice president of the martial arts union once died at the hands of this assassin squad. Yi Wanwan had been there for a few days without any trouble. She didn't expect him to initiate contact with her today. When the people in the prison heard He Biao wanted to speak with Yi Wanwan, the room turned silent and everyone secretly peered at the two people. "Worryless, be careful. There's definitely nothing good coming from this He Biao." Yi Wanwan sent Haidang a pacifying gaze before calmly walking toward He Biao. "May I ask what instructions you have, Bossy?" He Biao churlishly leaned back in his chair, his eyes unscrupulously running up and down Yi Wanwan's body. "I heard President Bai has been having quite a lot of fun these past few days." Yi Wanwan chuckled. "I've been all right. Then are you interested in playing with me? What would you like to play, Bossy?" "Anything, President Bai. You decide." "And what's at stake?" Yi Wanwan asked. He Biao chuckled. "The stakes are very simple. If you lose, President Bai, I won't make things difficult for you. It's lonely on this island, so you just need to keep me company for a few nights." The second He Biao spoke, Yi Wanwan narrowed her eyes. "Fuck," Xia quietly cursed while Haitong's expression also changed. Every prisoner here was a leader from the independent state, and the majority of these leaders were men, while only a small portion was female. Even if they were female, they were figures at Haitong's level and were individuals people couldn't afford to offend, so no one dared to do anything to them. Yi Wanwan was the president of the Fearless Alliance, so nobody dared to have ulterior motives against her either. However, after being imprisoned for so long on such a remote island without any hope for escape, the evilest side of human nature would eventually be triggered, let alone the fact that Yi Wanwan had such a risky face. When the observing leaders heard He Biao's words, a commotion ran through them. Damn. He Biao is savage. He dares to try something with even by phone. You can't blame him, though. A girl changes 18 times between childhood and womanhood, and Bai Feng's face right now is seriously tut-tut-tut. Huh. Do you think Bai Feng will agree? Unlikely, I think. Even if she's Bai Feng, she's still a woman, so she probably won't agree to a bet like this easily, right? Haidang furiously glared at He Biao and hastily tugged on Yi Wanwan. "Worryless, don't bet with him. He Biao is old and cunning. You won't win against him." Yi Wanwan had some knowledge of He Biao's character. The games she and the others typically played were all child's play, and Yi Wanwan definitely wouldn't win against him. Yi Wanwan's eyes turned before looking at He Biao. "Gang leader He, you said I could choose whatever wager I wanted, right?" He Biao smiled cunningly. "That's right. You could decide the wager, but the precondition is that the wager must be absolutely fair." Yi Wanwan inwardly sneered. He was old and cunning indeed. "All right, I'll bet with you," Yi Wanwan agreed. An uproar erupted in the area. "Worryless, are you mad?" Haidang exclaimed. Xia also didn't expect her to actually agree. "Damn, crazy woman. Why the hell did you agree? Do you know who this guy is? In all the time he's been here, he's never lost." He Biao's gaze filled with excitement and interest as he looked at Yi Wanwan and clapped his hands. Seeing this for myself is better than hearing the legends. President Bai is courageous indeed. Yuanwan glanced at Haidang and Xixia. You too, don't be so rankled, all right? Maybe I'll win. Xixia was boiling with fury. Win your ass. I told you this guy is old and cunning. Don't you yourself know he Biao's abilities? Yuanwan clapped Xixia on the shoulder. Calm down, calm down. It's not like you're the one sleeping with him if I lose. Moreover, what a coincidence. I've also never lost. You Xixia started. Biao's eyes glinted. Then shall we begin now? Yuanwan paused for a moment before asking, Hold on. If I lose, I keep you company for a few nights, but what if I win? Biao seemed to have zero expectations of Yi Wanwan winning, so he was startled upon hearing that. What do you want? Yi Wanwan's eyes ran over Biao's waist before she said, If I win, I want your white tiger seal. Gang leader, what are you saying? Your esteemed self is the person who decided the rules, so I'm merely playing according to your rules. How am I tricking you? You'll win as long as you eat shit. That's very fair. Yuanwan swept her eyes over the room. There's so many leaders here as witnesses, so don't tell me your esteemed self wants to renege on your promise. Everyone, hurry and be my judge. A great leader, like gang leader, is actually reneging on his bet with me. Everyone, judge her ass. How could someone be as shameless as her? However, they couldn't refute. Even Haidang and Xixia were dumbfounded. No matter what, they wouldn't have expected her to think of such an evil move. Yuanwan shook her head and sighed before muttering to herself. I think about how I can clearly rely on my face to make a living, but I just have to be so shameless one. Xixia, Haidang. Biao stared at Yi Wanwan darkly. He never expected this woman to be so crafty. The gambling Biao originally referred to as normal gambling, like poker and mahjong, which was why he told Yi Wanwan she could choose whatever she wanted. He didn't expect to let her take advantage of the whole. It was the perfect example of a word game, and Biao didn't have the advantage. How about it, bossy? Will you eat it or not? Yi Wanwan asked with a slight smile as she calmly stared at Biao. Yuanwan was certain Biao wouldn't dare to win. Regardless of whether Biao would eat it personally, if Biao really ate shit in front of everyone, he would lose all reputation and standing after returning to the independent state, and Biao's power would also disintegrate and break apart after all. No member would be willing to follow a boss who had no scruples about eating shit simply because he wanted to sleep with a woman. Even if Biao didn't believe they would be able to escape from this island, and was prepared to stay here for the rest of his life. If he publicly ate shit, it would be very difficult for him to continue to survive on this island. Bossy, why aren't you talking? Yuanwan asked with a jeer. So, President Bai, do you really think you've won? Biao's eyes locked on Yuanwan with a cold gaze. What are you saying, bossy? Isn't it up to you whether I win or not? If you really eat it, then I have no choice but to accept my loss. Yuanwan retorted with an uncaring expression. Everyone looked astonished when they heard Biao. Some leaders who had decent relationships with Biao all looked at each other. Biao doesn't seriously want to win, right? Although it was truly very easy for Biao to win, if Biao really won, not only would it not be an honorable deed, it would also become a gigantic dark spot that he wouldn't be able to erase for the rest of his life. Simply because he wanted to make a woman sleep with him, he actually went to eat shit. Forget about a prominent figure in the independent state like Biao. There probably wasn't any normal person who would be willing to do something like this, right? Say, Biao, don't tell me you're really planning to win. If you're really freaking eating it, I won't know you from now on. I don't want shameful friends like you. A leader shot Biao a glance. Boss Zhou is right. Biao, I think you should just give your white tiger seal to President Bai. We can't leave this place anyway, so there's no use for you to keep your white tiger seal. You must consider this carefully. Biao glanced at the speakers. The white tiger seal isn't important. I've never lost. Before the other leaders could speak, Yuanwan mockingly said, Biao, I seem to recall having told you this. I've also never lost. Do you really have that much confidence? Biao menacingly glared at Yi Wanwan, his expression as dark as the bottom of a pan. The corners of Yi Wanwan's lips turned up in an icy smile. So, does that mean Bossy Biao is planning to win? What are you waiting for? Hurry up. Yi Wanwan ran her eyes over the room. Which of you bosses can help give Bossy Biao some hot and fresh ones to eat? Biao turned furious instantly. He simply couldn't understand how this woman could be shameless to this extent. Me? Yi Wanwan curiously asked. What about me? I'm merely thinking on your behalf, Boss He. Of course, if you don't like to eat fresh ones, Boss He, then we can find you some not-so-fresh ones too. Whatever you want. Everyone couldn't help but shake their heads as they stared at Yi Wanwan. President Fearless' reputation really didn't come out of nowhere. Even a veteran independent state leader like He Biao would probably find himself caught on the losing end against by phone. He Biao was too unfortunate. Although he had never lost in the gambling arena, his degree of shamelessness was probably galaxies inferior to President Fearless. Carefully thinking about it, though, who was the Fearless Alliance in the independent state? Their notoriety spread far and wide, and they were detested and cursed by everyone. They murdered and plundered, committing every imaginable misdeed. On the grander scheme of things, the Fearless Alliance would rob even heaven and earth. On the minor side of things, the Fearless Alliance was no rare participant in pilfery, especially President Fearless before them. Some leaders from the independent state personally witnessed her boldly cutting in line at Xiaobing stores. Someone without an ounce of quality, morals, or integrity like her. Anyone who bet with her would be plagued by 8 lifetimes of bad luck. I finally understand. He Biao, did you think you were competing with President Fearless on who was a better expert gambler? I'm afraid President Bai doesn't think that. She's clearly competing on who's more shameless. Yi Wanwan glanced at the speaker. This person was so boring. Why did he have to say such honest words? Say, Boss He, I think if you really dare to win, then you'd be more shameless than President Bai. You better carefully think about what path to take. What are you afraid of, Boss He? Go on. It's just a serving of poop. If you eat it, I'll respect you as a true man from now on. Upon hearing this mockery, He Biao's expression turned darker. How about it, Boss He? Don't waste everyone's time, Yi Wanwan pressed. After a moment of silence, He Biao harumphed at her and promptly pulled off the white tiger seal hanging from his waist and tossed it at Yi Wanwan. Boss He, you're so kind, Yi Wanwan cheerily said as she caught the white tiger seal. By phone, you're seriously shameless. He Biao turned and left after shooting Yi Wanwan a fierce glare. What high praise, Boss He. Goodbye, Boss He. Let's bet again when you have more valuable items in the future. Yi Wanwan called out as she watched He Biao leaving. Scram, I'll never bet with someone like you again for the rest of my life. He Biao cursed without looking back. Look at this. Bossy's character is SOSO. He's such a sore loser. Yi Wanwan sighed exasperatedly. You're awesome. Xixia immediately gave Yi Wanwan a thumbs up. A leader looked at Xixia. Say, Si Chun, judging from how naive you are, you mustn't spend too much time with President Bai. Have you heard of this saying before? One is marked by the company one keeps. If you keep hanging out with President Bai, you'll turn into coal. My freaking name is Xixia. Xixia Sixi. Xixia screamed. Then who's Si Chun? How the heck would I know who Si Chun is? I'll bomb the storehouse if someone freaking calls me Si Chun again. Xixia shouted. All right, stop shouting. Yi Wanwan frowned. I have another matter I'd like to discuss with everyone. President Bai, what good matter could you possibly have to talk about? Of course it's a good matter. Yi Wanwan looked at everyone. Doesn't everyone here want to leave this wretched place and return to the independent state? Everyone's expressions shifted upon hearing Yi Wanwan's words. Who would be willing to stay in this damn place? But leaving this place was simply a lunatic's dream. President Bai, this island is surrounded by the sea, and there isn't a single tree on this island, so it's impossible to make a boat even if we wanted to. Leave? How are we going to leave? Are we going to swim back? A leader shook their head. If they really could leave this wretched place, they'd be willing to pay anything with the exception of their lives. It's nothing as dramatic as swimming, Yuan smiled enigmatically. However, an item like a boat, I do have one. Everyone was shocked. President Bai, you mustn't joke carelessly about this. You really have a boat? Of course. I definitely have a ship. Regardless of how gutsy I am, I wouldn't dare to play tricks on all you bosses, Yuan replied with a nod. Where's the boat? Don't concern yourselves with the location of the ship. I, by phone, won't dare to say anything else, but I can guarantee one thing today. As long as you wish to leave, I can guarantee I can help everyone leave, Yuan said genially. Are you serious, President Bai? All the leaders were stunned. Of course I'm serious. If I told a single lie, you can beat me to death. How about it? Yuan proposed. Forget whether it's real or fake. If we can leave, we're definitely willing to leave. No need for the rush. Yuan faintly smiled at the leaders in the room. Well, leaving won't be a problem, but don't you need to buy tickets for the ship first? We need to buy tickets. Everyone was startled. Of course you gotta buy ship tickets. I'm not holding a charity. Buy them if you want. Leave if you don't, Yuan said. Also, there are limited tickets, so they go to the highest payers. Fucking by phone, just tell us how much. Name a price. I absolutely won't bargain as long as I can leave. Name whatever price you want. And so, every leader purchased the most expensive, astronomically priced ship ticket they'd ever bought in their lives. As Yuan looked over the pieces of officially written and signed loan slips from the leaders, a grin stretched across her face. Her trip was worth it. This time, she was rich. At this moment, only Yuan and Haidang had moved locations. Worryless, was what you said real or fake? Do you really have a ship? Haidang asked her with a frown. Those people had seriously been imprisoned in this miserable place for too long. Yuan had given them hope, so the consequences would be inconceivable if there wasn't a ship in the end. Of course I have a ship, Haitang. I'm not a fool. If I joked about this matter, I would be ruthlessly beaten dead by those people, Yuan responded. Yuan quickly told Haidang the whole story. After learning the fearless alliance, the Nie family, and even Azura had their eyes locked on this island, Haidang was surprised. It turned out Yuan being captured was part of the plan. All right, Haitang, I still have something to request of you, Yuan quietly added. What is it? Just tell me. Yuan took a step forward and leaned into Haitang's ear to give her instructions. After Yuan finished speaking, Haitang's expression shifted minutely. Why? Yuan was silent for a long while. Haitang, you don't need to know too much about this matter. Just do as I say. I need to test it out, Yuan finally replied. All right, I understand, Haitang agreed. Then I'll go back to make preparations now. Thank you. Yuan nodded lightly. Seconds after Haitang left, a soft voice came from behind Yuan. Xiaofeng, long time no see. This voice was both strange and incredibly familiar to her. Yuan reflexively turned around. The man wore a fleeting smile on his face as he looked at Yuan with his long and narrow eyes. This man before her emitted a scholar's aura from his bones. Brother Xiren? Yuan was startled briefly when she saw the man, but quickly regained her wits. Of course, she wasn't unfamiliar with this man. He was her sworn brother, Wen Xiren. It really is you. Wen Xiren chuckled lightly before walking toward Yuan. Soon, Wen Xiren stopped in front of Yuan. Your voice hasn't changed all these years, but I wonder if your appearance has changed. It hasn't changed. It's almost the same, Yuan answered with a smile. In Yuan's memory, Wen Xiren was blind in both eyes from birth and couldn't see anything. When did you get captured here, Brother Xiren? Yuan asked the man with a frown. Although First Elder from the Fearless Alliance previously hypothesized this, Yuan didn't expect to actually see you and Xiren in here. Not too long ago, but that's unimportant. However, where did you go all these years? Why did you leave the Fearless Alliance without a word? When Xiren asked, Yuan didn't explain in detail. Since Yuan and when Xiren hadn't seen each other for a long time, they conversed quite a bit after finding a spot to sit. Yuan and when Xiren had known each other for more than 10 years, so she knew him very well. Considering when Xiren's strength, if he wasn't blind, he definitely wouldn't have been captured in this kind of place. After learning about Yuan's plan, when Xiren was startled. If it was as she said, it wouldn't be long before they could successfully leave this island. Actually, I don't think the Martial Arts Union holds any ill intentions toward the people they captured on this island, when Xiren quietly said to Yuan after a long while. Yuan furrowed her brows when she heard that, when Xiren's thoughts were similar to Ji Shiran's. The majority of the people imprisoned on this island are people who've brazenly rejected the Direct Line's invitation, so I don't think this could be that coincidental. Furthermore, the Martial Arts Union most likely wouldn't capture us for no reason, when Xiren explained. Yuan neither refuted nor agreed with this. She was still clueless about the Martial Arts Union's possible objectives right now. There was one notable point, though. The act of capturing everyone to this island, restricting their freedom, and imprisoning them without a deadline wasn't kind at its roots. Say, don't tell me you don't want to leave. Yuan glanced at Xiren. When Xiren shook his head and chuckled. How could that be? Who would want to be imprisoned on this island? Leaving is the best option, of course. I'm very curious about how you were captured to this place with your strength. Yuan asked him. Actually, you can't call it being captured. When Xiren shook his head. I previously accepted a mission where I was supposed to investigate this island. Before I entered the island, though, I ran into the members of the Martial Arts Union who were guarding the island boundaries, and I was tricked onto the island. Yuan, that you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.